This is the secret to swimming fast in the 50 freestyle. If you're looking to break 30 seconds, whether it's in the 50 free, fly, back, or breast, this video is for you. To understand how we can swim this kind of a time, we need to break it into parts. In a short course 25-meter freestyle, it's start, turn, finish. In a long course version of the pool, you're gonna have 4 parts. The first 15 meters, the next 10 meters, the next 15 meters, and then the final 10 meters. Now, we're gonna start with a short course pool. And again, this video is going to really help you whether you're training for the 50 freestyle or any of the strokes, but also the methodology of how you can break apart any race. And at the end of this video, I'm gonna share with you guys specific swimming tips that you can apply into your training so that way you can accomplish your goals. Now, let's start with the short course freestyle where you have a start. This is the first 15 meters, just like in long course. This is how you come off the block, entering the water with a good streamline. If you're not already proficient in streamline coming off the wall, it's not gonna work when you dive in a race. Next, you have the turn. This is from after 15 meters all the way to the next 20 meters. And then you have the final 15 meters, 35 to 50. When we break it into 3 parts, now we know which part of the race that we can focus on so we can reach maximum performance. If it means working on your start because you know the first 15 meters and the breakout is not very good, that's gonna set up the rest of the race. Maybe you need to work on the turn. If you notice, the turn, if this is our illustration of a 25-meter pool, the turn is literally half of the entire event. And then you have the finish, making sure that you maintain your speed all the way to the end. Now, in a little bit, I'm gonna share with you guys exactly how many breaths you need to take and where you should breathe in the different pool types to maximize performance at this specific speed level. But first, let's talk about the long course pool. Same thing, we have the first 15 meters. This is the start and the breakout. Next, we have continuing speed from the start and breakout. And if you notice, well, why are there 2 different pieces, the 15 to 25 and the 25 to 40? That's because you have different things happening at this point in the race. From 15 to 25, you're still carrying speed off of the start. What starts to happen around 25 to 30 meters is you start to slow down. So it's really important that you maintain a good body position, head position, and all the fundamentals, and also your training really kicks in. This is what makes or breaks the 50 freestyle. At the higher levels, the athletes are really good at maintaining their speed this far, and they fall off on the last 10 meters. You see, in a 50 freestyle, it's not about who is the fastest, it's about who is able to maintain their speed for the longest period of time before getting to the finish. And if you're a more advanced swimmer, this is where you're gonna see the biggest results, by maintaining your speed, and it comes from not only technique, but also training, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Now, let's talk about breathing. How do you breathe in the 50 freestyle? If you're trying to go under 30 seconds, you're going to need to take a few breaths. You're probably not at a level where you can do this in 0 breaths or even 1 breath. What I would recommend in the short course version of the pool is to take 4 breaths or less. So when you dive in, and let's say you take 29 seconds, you're gonna dive in. Let's say this is our diving block right here. You're gonna dive in, whee, and you're gonna swim, 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 swim. Your breakout's right there. And you're gonna take your first breath after the first couple of strokes. You don't breathe on the first stroke, you take at least 2 or 3 strokes, and that's where you take your first breath if you were to take 4 breaths. Then you take maybe 4 to 6 more strokes, and now you're about 5 meters away from the wall. And by the way, this works for the 25-meter freestyle or the 25-yard freestyle. Of course, yards is a little bit shorter, it might be easier to take less breaths. Your second breath is gonna happen at about 6 meters away from the wall, just outside the flags. So these are your first 2 breaths in the 50-meter freestyle. You're gonna flip turn, you're gonna come back, take at least 2 strokes before taking your first breath off of the wall. You come off the wall, 2 strokes, take your breath, you're sprinting, 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 and then you're gonna take your final breath with more than 5 meters to go in the race. Anywhere maybe 7, 8, 9, 10 meters away from the finish, and then you're gonna finish the race, and that's how you do it with 4 breaths. Now, of course, you might be able to do it in less than that. If you're swimming faster than 29 seconds, you'll start to get even less and less breaths. Maybe you go 25 seconds, you should only be taking maybe 1 or 2 breaths the entire 50. And when you get down to 21 or 22 seconds, you're doing it no breath. Let's say you were to take 3 breaths. Where would you take 3 breaths in a short course 50 freestyle? You're gonna take one on the way down in a similar spot before you get to the 5 meters away from the wall. You take that breath probably about right here. You're gonna flip turn, take 2 to 3 strokes, take another breath, and then another breath. And if you're only gonna take one breath on each 25, you're gonna do it in the same spot, but you're gonna wait a little bit further before grabbing that final breath so you can make it all the way into the finish. Now here's the thing that most people mess up in the 50 freestyle when they go to a long course pool. It is completely different. This wall makes the race so much faster and easier. So if you're trying to go the 50 meter freestyle, taking the same amount of strokes as you would in a short course pool, it's not gonna work. So here's how it works in a 50 meter pool. This is now a 50 meter pool right here. And let's say we're, instead of taking 4 in a short course pool, now we're gonna take 5 in a long course pool. So you're gonna dive in and immediately, you're not gonna take a breath. You're gonna carry the speed from the breakout, take at least 4 strokes, and then you're gonna take your first breath after 4 strokes. And you're gonna try and find a rhythm of maybe every 6 to 8 strokes where you're gonna take a breath. So you're swimming, you're going as fast as you can, boom, you take your second breath. You took your second breath just before the halfway point. The big mistake a lot of swimmers make is you go the first 25 meters without taking a single breath, and then you take 7 breaths in a row on the second half of the race. Big mistake. You have all this speed and you decelerate. Remember, the fastest swimmers are able to maintain their speed all the way through the entire 50 meters. So let's stick with our 5 breath race strategy. Dive in, this is the halfway mark roughly, and just after that, you're gonna take another breath. Now you're at 3 breaths. Now you really need to focus because things are gonna start to fall apart. You're gonna start to feel some tension. You're starting to get a little tired. Gotta hold your stroke together. You're gonna keep swimming, and then you're gonna take another breath. And then in the last 7 or so meters, that's when your final breath is, and you're gonna finish to the wall, and that is 5 breaths. Now, of course, if you're only taking 4 or 3, you're gonna have less than this. I'll give you guys an example. My time in a 50 meter freestyle is about 25 seconds. I've always done 3 breaths. If I train for this event specifically, maybe I could do 2. But you know what? In a short course pool, it's easy for me to take 1 breath. So look at that translation, going from 1 breath in a short course pool to 3 in a long course pool. And it's the same distance, just to show you how big of an impact it is having the turn. So if you want to swim fast in the 50 freestyle, it's not about breaking it apart like this, but also knowing when and where you should be taking your breaths. Now let's talk about pacing and how you can train. You might think, well, if I want to go under 30 seconds in the 50, or let's say I went 30.00, maybe I'm going to go 15 seconds on the way down and then 15 seconds on the way back. That makes sense, right? No, this is completely wrong. That's not how it works, because not only do you have a dive, but you have easy speed. Remember, by the time you get to the end of the race, you're basically falling apart. You're decelerating, you're sinking, you're getting lower and lower in the water. So it's so important that you train with the right numbers in mind, because what gets measured gets improved. So the realistic splits for swimming a 50 freestyle under 30 seconds would be 14.0 on the first 25, and then 15.5 on the second 25. You add those two together, we're at 29.5. The difference between the first 25 and the second 25 is about 10%. And this number is very important because this 10% is the natural deceleration at this specific speed. Meaning when you factor in the dive and you factor in the fact that you do a flip turn, and to your feet, we're talking 14.0, which means if you were to not do a flip turn and you just touch the wall, you're gonna be 13 seconds. You're gonna be under 14. Fun fact, the world record in the short course 50 meter freestyle is a 19.90. Jordan Crooks. On the first 25 of this race, he was a 9.55. On the second 25, he was a 10.35 to give us a 19.9 total. If you think about the math on that, this is an 8% difference between the first and the second 25. Now you might think, well, why can't we shoot for 8%? Because this is Jordan Crooks, the fastest swimmer to ever go in this event, and he decelerates less than you do. So the faster you get, the less deceleration, not only because the distance itself is shorter, but because the swimmers are also that much better. So if you want to level up your swimming, it's not about how fast you can go on the first 25, it's about how fast you can maintain your speed all the way through the race. And this applies to not only freestyle, but especially the short axis strokes like breaststroke and butterfly. where the time difference between the first 25 and the second 25 is very significant. We're talking 15 to 20% the difference between the first 25 and the second 25 if we're talking breaststroke or butterfly. Now let's talk about training, because this is really how we put it together. You might ask, well, how do I maintain my speed and not die in a 50 freestyle? It really comes down to how you spend your time in the water, how you train. And to do this point, I want to show you for two different sets. I have 4 100s freestyle, and let's put these on the 2-minute interval, and I have 16 25s on the 40-second interval. If you were to swim the 4 100s freestyle on the 2-minute, you might average 1 minute and 20 seconds, which means your average pace per 25 is 20 seconds. If you were to do this set over here, you're still doing the same distance of 400 meters, same 400 on both sides, but you're gonna average 15 seconds per 25. And when you compare the 15 seconds over here to the 20 seconds over here, if you train consistently 25% faster, you're gonna train your body what it's like to swim at that faster pace. Now, of course, if you wanna have the endurance to swim a longer event that's not a 50, you're gonna need to incorporate more of this style of workout. But instead of 4, you're gonna do 14 100s, because 4 is not going to cut it. So you might need a variety of training to get there, but you can get the overall point that what you're trying to do is teach your body how to swim fast. So that way, going 15 seconds into 25 becomes automatic. And so that way you'll have easy speed to go 12 seconds on the first 25, 14 seconds on the way back, and you'll be at 27 or 28 seconds. This type of training also applies in the 50-meter pool. So we can't do 16 25s. Instead, we can do 8 50s, and on the first half of every single 50, we're gonna go cruise speed. Then the second half, we're gonna negative split, which means we go faster on the second half to simulate what's gonna happen to our bodies on the second half of the race when we start to get tired. So when you start to focus on these different elements of the 50 freestyle or the 50 of any stroke, you can start to see how you can break it down into different components, and that's what's gonna set you up for success. Now, if all of this video is a little bit overwhelming for you, that's fine. Take a moment, rewatch it, and if you still want our help to helping you swim faster and smarter than ever before, check out the links down below. I'll see you over at this video, which will show you the secret to swimming fast, and happy swimming.